Hi there, Tara. I have September's cards here in front of me. The cards have been really interesting this month already, and I'm really pleasantly surprised to see that the cards are less about the daily drama, the daily things that we're facing, and much more about our own internal growth patterns that are kind of coming through. Now, those growth patterns show up through our daily life. So the main spread that I did is indeed kind of focused on a very particular situation that is, you know, happening or has happened because it does look like you have a lot of tens in your spread. So I don't know if there's already been an ending or if you're in the process of an ending, but they're all minor arcana basically. Your spread is a lot like the other ones in that there's very little major arcana. So what I like about it though is it's kind of showing how far we've come, which makes sense with some of the astrology that is been at play here, and I have talked at great length in the other readings about the planet of Saturn that spent a couple of years in Pisces. And Pisces is the culminating sign of the zodiac. It's the last one. So whenever a planet hits Pisces and spends some time in there, it's wrapping up a much larger zodiac cycle. So it's already like kind of traversed all of the zodiac. And so a lot of the lessons that we've all learned and been practicing all come through. Now, what that means is I think it was in May when Saturn went into Aries. Um, I could be wrong on that exact date, but and it shifted the first time in, 2.5 years, but it also started a new zodiac cycle with Aries. So what that talks about when we not only end up one cycle, when it moves from one sign to another, but when you move from the last sign to the new sign again, then you're starting an entire cycle of it going. I mean, Saturn won't come back to Pisces for many, many decades. So it's really interesting that this is kind of profound if we can find in our charts, in our lives, where that has been at play. And with Saturn, it's all about teaching us lessons, making us better, refining us by giving us ways to practice and give ourselves structure and try things out and try what works for us and doesn't, what's going to be best for us. And now we have kind of leveled up with Saturn. So as it moved into Aries, we're getting ready to start a new cycle. And Aries is a sign about the individual. So it's about our own authenticity and our own power and our own new initiative type energy and who we are. But in September here, Saturn retrograded back into Pisces just for a little while before it leaves for good. So we got a little taste of it this summer, what Saturn and Aries is going to feel like. And it will stay there for about 2.5 years. But for the next couple of months, it did retrograde back into Pisces. This is almost like the final exam of what the other prior 2.5 years have been about. So whatever area of your chart has felt like you really have come up against obstacles and had to change your thinking, or wherever you have felt a tremendous amount of growth or change in who you are, and maybe even a restriction, like you weren't able to do certain things, that is what you could be tested on here between now and February. And it's going to come out, the tests are going to come out in the daily life. So it is looking like what we're seeing in the spreads. And they're not hard tests because if you're at all interested in your own life and doing better and trying to improve, you will have already mastered some of this. So now these small things that are going to come up are not really like huge challenges. What they are just recognitions that you're not there anymore. So you can use the word trigger, you can use the word like reminder, but that's the old you. So if you find yourself like slipping backwards or reacting to things that you really thought you were already past, all you have to do is catch yourself and say, "Oh yeah, that was the old me. The new me isn't." And it's happening in my world too. And that's why I think maybe that is the lens where I'm focusing so much on Saturn because it's really apparent. But it's also coming through the cards in that same way, where you have already kind of leveled up. You've already learned those lessons and you're really ready for something new. And maybe you kind of got to start on that this summer, but you may have to go back and kind of prove it that you're really ready. Like these things really aren't in your way anymore. And that's actually kind of a good feeling. It really reminds me of like enlightenment, like when people have dark nights of the soul. A lot of times Saturn can be at play when someone is going through like a dark night of the soul or as an awakening of some kind. It's painful. It's not nearly as fun and hallelujah that it sounds. It's painful to face the past and our hurts and to open our mind and our heart to bigger things. It's a painful process, but we do come out better. That kind of transformation is better. And I think that the readings right now are kind of focused on areas in your life where that is at play. Now, there's also a lot going on in September. Saturn aside, September is a difficult month in from the astrology angle, and we can see it in the collective. I mean, all over the news. But similar kinds of things are happening within our own psyche and within our own lives as well. There's good and bad in September. It's not all bad. It's just it's some really shocking things, and that's not unusual either. Every single year at this time, we have eclipses, and that's the nature of eclipses, is eclipsing out certain things, welcoming in new things. And we just had the lunar eclipse in Pisces last week, and we are getting ready on the 21st to have the full moon solar eclipse in Virgo. And it's always that way this time of year, that Virgo Pisces aspect. Um, and so the way forward, we have Virgo, which comes at a really great time because what Virgo does is it encourages us, whether it's the season in general, which we're in, or this eclipse, it encourages us to look at the details, to look at our daily routines, look at our habits, look at the work we do and how we do it. Um, the path forward is within the details. Just keep swimming, stay really focused on your own life, in your own lane, on what you're doing and how it makes you feel, and putting the effort in. It doesn't like Virgo's not asking for a tremendous amount of effort, like go away. It's just do the normal things well. Tighten up where you can. And all of that is coming into play for our benefit. And when we focus on that like that, other things will come to light. Because you're focused on your daily routine, you'll begin to notice the things that aren't working. Um, they're going to become more pronounced. We're not paying attention. It's an attention kind of thing. Now, with all that said, all that was just a little bit of the astrology. I have a lot of cards on the table. I have a normal spread for you with one deck, and then I have three other sets of cards. I was going for one card and then two cards and then three cards from three different decks. And I think what I'm going to do, since your spread is talking about the details, I'm going to start with the deck that I just pulled one card from, and we're going to go top down. Because what I asked from that deck, and it was the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, is what I pulled from that. I just wanted one card that said, what is this talking about? Like, under what one card energy is all of this hitting? And in your case, you were the only one that I've done today that you had three cards come out. So I'm going to take them all. But this is what we're talking about. All the rest of what I'm going to say falls under this heading of the Strength card, the 10 of Wands reversed. I'm sorry, that's the 10 of Swords, and the World card reversed. Now, this is interesting because all I said before was how you didn't have very many major arcana, and now you have the most painful card in the tarot, in the 10 of Swords, and you have two major arcana. So, see, the details of your spread fall under a much bigger, like, soul transformation, like a personal transformation in your big life. I mean, in a big way in your life. This is where your life, the big changes are, that's where they are pointed out, is in the major arcana. So I like this. I'll tell you what I think this is. The Strength card, it's Leo energy, but it is very literal in that it's calling on you, or you're having the strength to keep going after something was kind of meant to end you. And I don't mean that in a literal way. The 10 of Swords reverse is a very painful ending. The Ten of Swords is the worst card in the tarot in terms of pain. It is an ending that there's no coming back from. And it's betrayal. It can mess with your psyche. It can be words said about you, deeds done against you. It's a situation that cannot be salvaged. And then the World card is, of course, an ending, wrapping up a cycle, right? The end of the road is really prominent because of this particular World card. So I think it's cool that I picked this deck because this talks about the end of the road. Do you see that crossing road right there? I think that where that other road crosses it, I think that was the Ten of Swords right there. That was a natural place in your life where you could have stopped, okay, because of something painful. Whether that is attacks from your family or trying something over and over and over and losing confidence in it. I don't know what the Ten of Swords here is, but you're on the other side of it because it's reversed. So to me, when you put these together, this Ten of Swords is usually brought on by external forces. And if you know the tarot, the Rider-Waite tarot deck, it's the one where the guy's laying on the ground and all the swords are in his back. Now, he didn't put them there himself because they're coming in from behind. That's why I'm saying it's generally a certain amount of external influence or talk or betrayal or something that causes a situation to end. It's the only card in the tarot where the swords actually touch the guy, but he did not put them there himself. So that's where I keep saying there was a situation that was maybe meant to end your journey down a particular road. All right. That's where that little road crossing it. However, what this is talking about is you having the strength for it not to be the end of the road. So something, I don't know if people around you or something, a situation was meant to put a stop to something you were doing, but it's not working. It's not gonna work. You may feel very betrayed. You may feel very stripped of certain things. I'm looking at the skeleton hand. All the skin is stripped. Um, but it didn't. It's not the end of the road. You are in a moment of exercising a great deal of strength and recognizing your own strength. And I love the hand analogy right now, the metaphor here, because the Ten of Swords, that painful ending, there's no skin. And yet here you are with a fist. You're strong enough that this, whatever was meant to stop you, is not going to stop you. So I know that sounds really dramatic and I don't mean it to be, but I was trying to show the big difference between all the minor cards I have on the table and how dramatic these kind of look, right? I don't know. You're not letting something stop you. Okay. Um, I do think there was probably some kind of betrayal involved, however you want to word that. But I do see some external source maybe wanting to put an end to something you're doing. And maybe you thought for a while that was going to, but something's not all the way over yet. That world card is in in the reverse. So something isn't wrapping up. You may have the strength to either finish it off or to keep going. I think that's your call. But you have strength. Now, the other way to see that is if you have an ending that was really painful and something, take for instance, like a divorce, right? A divorce can be a really nasty thing. The fact that the world card's reversed means maybe it's not all the way officially over yet. But you do have the strength to get through to completion. It could go either way with that. I like it. I like it a lot. Something you thought was going to be over isn't over yet, and you're having to be strong through it, but you are. Now that's what all this is talking about. So now if we break it down, the next set of cards, I pulled two cards from a different deck. This is the Unveiled Tarot. Is the Hierophant and the Nine of Swords. Now the Hierophant is the card of tradition, right? It's the card of structure and, kind of ancient wisdom, structures that we as humans have put into place based on all the information we've gathered so far and into collective wisdom. And it shows up in a lot of the more institutional areas of humanity, like marriage, like higher education, like the court system, our authority with the way that we police each other, um, any cultural kind of structure. And then we have the Nine of Swords. Now, on the surface, these look like there's anxiety around tradition. That's what it looks like. The Nine of Swords is the anxiety card. It's the thing that keeps us up at night. And it's around this traditional structure. So the feeling, and I really don't know, I'm not sure I've ever had these two come up like this. Um, so the combination isn't really hitting me with anything like it's not a literal translation to me. What I feel like this, because of the David Bowie look in the anxiety card, that whole like um Grateful Dead, David Bowie kind of like red swirly. It's kind of interesting there. It's kind of making me think like you may be worried about something that you want to do. And I know from talking to you that you have some more non-traditional kind of thinking. And I don't know if you're trying to put that into practice and you're worried that people are going to be judging you. But this process here of overcoming that is trying to understand that by doing something a new way, it's not necessarily changing the basis of that foundation. Like all traditions, all structures, there's room to move within them. There's there's room to change and update with still keeping within a structure. And so it's not a betrayal to that structure. It's not changing it. It's not ignoring it. It's just adapting it to make it work for you. So people that grew up in a very religious community can sometimes feel like they're betraying or they're doing something wrong by exploring other religions or things that are more pagan in nature. But that's not really, and that's where some of the anxiety could come from. But that's not really the truth because you're a person who has a very set of beliefs, but you're inspired to find something outside of those beliefs. But then through the process of integrating it, if you're all like concerned, like I said, with leveling up and living a good life, you incorporate the new into the old structures and you make something that works for you. You blend and it's not like you're abandoning all of your old values because you suddenly like working with runes. No, you incorporate the new thing you're studying into what you already have as a basis of your belief system. And I know, again, this is really over talking, but these are these kind of big concepts that have been going on for like 2.5 years now within us. And now we're at the stage where we're really finally, between now and February, trying to integrate. And so these are cards of integration to me. And I like it. It reminds me in a very simple metaphor of in the art world, you learn the rules around creating art. You learn color theory. You learn the rule of thirds and layout and design and you learn all of that and then you break those rules as an individual. You find your own techniques. You are inspired by your own thing, but you incorporate them. You break the rules in a very calculated way to make it work for you. But but you don't abandon the rules all the way. You work within the structure that you learned, and then you, in a very calculated way, bend some of them, break some of them to make you an individual artist. That's how you retain your own mind. That's how you don't get brainwashed. That's how you still call the shots in your own life and have autonomy and authority over your own life within these bigger structures. And I know that was a big mouthful, but that's really coming out. I think I don't know if this is hmm, I don't know if this is like too much, if this is talking about a much simpler situation in your life, but I do know that's really the vibe I'm getting from that, and that's so interesting to me. What I'm noticing, especially on the Hierophant, is you see this is the only Hierophant card I think I've ever seen that has a black background. That's unusual. Usually it's not. It's a very gray card in most decks because it's neutral. So you have the black of the Nine of Swords, the black of the Hierophant. It's very bleak, right? Like I'm not liking the bleakness. Whereas it looks like, say that you were following a philosophy that was like kind of nihilistic in nature or something, and yes, you're following a religion that talks about hell all the time, and there's just no good way out of a situation, and it's so bleak. But then you find another spiritual component that may be outside of the bounds of Christianity, like runes, like whatever it is you're studying, tarot, astrology, or whatever, that adds the red. It's something really passionate. It's okay to incorporate that. And again, it really proves that you're not following something blindly, that you really do have, you're the master of your own destiny that way within the traditional structures, but you still are a free thinker and you're able to take parts from outside and blend it into something new. So the next set of cards that I picked out, that I pulled for you, talk about what you can expect from yourself in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Like what might you find yourself doing more of, that kind of energy, like what could be something that is coming up for you. And it's the Knight of Pentacles, which I think is really appropriate here actually, because the Knight of Pentacles is a very slow moving knight. The knights are all action, they're all taking action. It's just that this particular knight has to study everything before they take action. It is a Virgo energy to me, and it's very calculated. They want to study everything before they make a move. And because of that, they're a very successful knight, right? They're not rash, they're not acting hastily. They want to know the lay of the land before they move. And in this particular deck, this artist, they even have this person reading a book and tossing a coin, like taking their time, studying, figuring out what you need to know before you do it. It's that kind of thing. So it's a lot of planning, a lot of prep. And then we have the Page of Swords and that 10 of Swords again. Now, in this case, this looks like a lot of failed attempts, and then there's study and planning for a new attempt. And the reason I say that is because after the 10 of Swords comes the Page of Swords. So technically, even though on the table they were that way, this is actually how it makes more sense. After this betrayal, after this painful ending, we either need to talk about it, so you could be planning to discuss an ending with someone, or you could be planning on what happens now when you get up, right? We start over. You have a new sword. The pages are typically messages, so you might be planning to send someone a message. Um, Maybe there's an explanation. Sometimes the Page of Swords can be an explanation, but it's also talking about a new way of communicating. The Page of Swords in the normal tarot really reminds me of the little kid, the little King Arthur. Well, the little Arthur, he wasn't king yet, in The Sword in the Stone. And I reference this a lot because it's a good visual. He's a very young kid, and he's the only one that can access the sword that's in the stone, right? He's got the magic for that. But the problem is he's immature. It's new to him, and his muscles aren't developed. So when he takes it out, it's real weighty and he swings it around and loses balance and everything. That's kind of what it's like with the Page of Swords to me, is we learn how to communicate in a different way. We learn a new method, and it can feel kind of clumsy. It can feel like kind of new to us. So it looks like you are beginning to either figure out a way to discuss an ending or planning to do something in kind of a new way after it not working the old way. So that's kind of neat. And that energy can play out in a lot of different ways. The nice thing about it is I think it's slow and steady, and we don't do something until we're ready. And there's some weird, I find that you're reading, I'm saying things in a very different way than I did with the other. I've done 5 today. Um, so I don't know if you're teaching this to somebody else. I don't know if there's any teaching component in it, but it feels like it. It could be just that you're setting an example for someone else to follow. So I don't know if you are aware that you might be an example to someone or not, but that could be part of it. Your actual spread here, I will kind of zip through. You do have a couple of tens. So there is something ending here. There was an ending. I don't think I'm calling it. I think it's already here. But the main energy of the reading is the 10 of wands in reverse. So you have gotten to a point where something became too burdensome to carry anymore, and so you have put the burden down. There is a situation that you have let go of. That situation probably was one that was not an equal give and take. Maybe you were carrying too much of the load. Somebody wasn't pulling their weight, somebody wasn't putting something in, but it does look like you have put that situation down. Now, past energy that is now leaving is the Five of Cups. This is a disappointment. This is an emotional loss of some kind that you might have been really sad about. And it is in the reverse. So here, with it being in the upright, that's kind of raw. But with it being in the past position and the fact that it's in reverse, it kind of makes like something had been a real disappointment. And now you're letting that go. The other card, the foundation card, is the 10 of, or the King of Wands. This is some kind of leadership. So I don't know if you were sitting in a leadership position, but then we have that mask. So I don't know if you've had to drop some kind of leadership mask or something and let something go, but the potential in the situation is to move on. Now it could be travel, but it's like moving into calmer water. Like that is an actual potential there. Okay, Tara, I'm sorry about that. My son showed up and I have not seen or talked to him in a couple of weeks. And I mean, he lives out of the house. It's not like he's been missing and he's just been busy. So that was a nice surprise. It just interrupted right in the middle. I didn't know he was coming today. So back to where we were. Of course, I don't remember what I was saying when he came, but I do know that I'm sitting here looking at the King of Wands in the foundation. I'm really noticing that mask slipping off of, um, you know, this energy that was directing the show or trying to take charge of a situation. The current energy is that dropping the burdens energy, letting something go that was not an equal give and take. There was not fairness in a situation. The potential is moving on into calmer territory, making some headway in the emotional realm, um, not juggling anymore, not wondering, not going back and forth like something. At least if the burden is put down that was uneven, things are moving on to a calmer space. The near future energy is the 10 of Cups in reverse. And this is basically the happily ever after card in reverse. It could be the ending of a family situation. It could be the ending of potential, even of what could have been. So you have two endings here, both in reverse, which implies they've kind of already happened or are in the process of, but with all those 10 of swords before and the other reading, that's four tens I see on the table here. Something might not be wrapped up all the way yet because the world card is in reverse, but for all practical purposes, it looks done, right? At least the way it stands right this second, even if a whole cycle has not completely completed yet. Now, in the area of your negative emotions about the situation is the Queen of Swords. So I don't know. This is most normally you have the truth about a situation and you're armed with the truth. Like you can see clearly what a situation is. You're also very guarded. And you could come across even, you could feel cold about a situation or just overly logical. You're not letting your emotions dictate here. So on the harder side of your emotions, you feel cold, discerning, detached. Okay. The other person or people in this situation, their emotions are the moon card. And this is a great deal of confusion or illusion. Um, there's no clarity involved. It's very shadowy energy, subconscious energy, not being able to see something clearly. So somebody may feel kind of stuck or confused about what the situation looks like. Like there's a lack of clarity on the other person's part. Now, the area of your positive emotions is the four of coins. And this is a really good card. Like I like this. This is stable more than anything. And it is coins. So it could be that your finances have stabilized, or this also is you're holding tight to what you do have, and that hasn't changed. Like there's something really kind of rock solid about this energy, that you're feeling really stable in a situation. Um, you may only be showing a certain part of what you have because she's only holding up the four coins, but you're giving off even a sense that's a real positive thing in your world, is the stability angle. So I kind of like that. That must make you feel positive in some way because of where it came up. The outcome of the situation is the Four of Wands in reverse. This is the card of an unbalanced or a disrupted, like, home life or happy situation. Usually the Four of Wands upright is like a stable home life or a stable situation between people. And when it's reversed, it's kind of chaotic, it's disrupted, there's a break in a home life, or there's a shakeup, is kind of what the word I was going for. Something isn't stable, right? It's not a union or a home life, a house. There's something not stable about it in the near future. I did clarify that, and this was a little bit confusing. The King of Cups and the Knight of Cups in reverse. Now, the Knight of Cups in reverse is generally a card of insincerity, and when that's paired with the King of Cups, the King of Cups is upright. So this is someone who's emotionally mature and in charge of their emotions. They understand what is going on and how to not let those emotions come up to the surface. It is the card of emotional maturity sitting right next to the card of emotional immaturity. So I think maybe that's what the problem with this relationship is, or the living situation between two people. It's not stable because there's different levels of how people are approaching this. Some people, one person is really stable, understands the emotions involved, is in charge of those emotions, is not being manipulative. They are calm and cool and collected. The other person could be insincere, immature, not knowing really what they want, still looking back, because he is kind of maybe trying to ride toward the king, if you see, but he's looking back. So it's like almost like they don't know what they want, or they haven't been as mature. That could be the reason for this disharmony in a situation. Makes sense with everything I've seen, and I think you already see it. I think you're really guarded against it, because here we go again. Your cards, your emotions, are the Queen of Swords, detached, cool, understanding, discerning, and the Four of Pentacles, very stable. I mean, those are your two cards. The other person is not, they're just confused. They don't see a situation very clearly. Um, they're in their head about it. Emotionally, they're kind of all over the place. There's no real certainty here. And you are the picture of certainty. And I can't help it but see exactly how in both cards these women are looking straight at, the viewer. So there is, like, I don't know, just somebody is ready for someone to not just kind of be all over the place. Like it's kind of crazy. Now your advice here is the Seven of Cups and the Chariot. Frankly, this shows that number one, you have options. Number two, you should explore those options. The Seven of Cups is a great card for being in the brainstorming, daydream mode of seeing what is available. And then the Chariot is getting on your chariot and gaining momentum. It's success. So it is your card. The Chariot is Cancer energy. So you have options, and you should explore those options and dream big. I don't know if this is a situation where Maybe at one time you thought there was only one way or one person or one situation, but I think you're quickly seeing that there are more roads to get where you want to go than what you've been presented with, and you're very aware of the truth. And if somebody else is confused or if there's confusion somewhere else, you have other options. But these two cards together are really positive. They're really emotional. They're very momentum driven, like not to lose your momentum. That would be the advice. Um, Going forward here is and that kind of goes back to this energy right here of being strong and resilient and something isn't over for you. Like or waiting out this ending, whatever you're having to deal with. But there is a great deal of strength and resilience to keep going after something that may have like somebody else could have thought that it was over for you or something. But I like it a lot. I think this is a really positive reading about overcoming the past. That's what I think. And I don't know if coming up there'll be some ending that happens or the kind of a punctuated decision that this was is never going to be what it was, or if there's some kind. I have two home cards in the future positions of disruption, or it could be even moving. I don't know if you're going to move homes, but these two both represent home and they're both in reverse. So there is some disruption there, but I think you're going to keep going. Like I don't think you're the confused one here. I think there's a great potential to move on into a calmer area. So I hope that helps. It's very interesting. I would say 2 to 4 weeks on most of this energy. Some of it clearly is talking to bigger cycles in your life and more psychological depth of things of how far you've come. But I think the point is with some momentum, I don't think you're going to slip backwards. If you thought that you would eventually have to step back, I don't think you will. I think you're going to keep going. That's not you anymore. And I'm not sure the other person or the other part of the situation understands that yet, and that they will. So I hope this helps, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.